Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 13th business meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:35. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have most of the board here tonight. Mrs. O'Connor is on vacation. I'm not going to tell you where she went. It's warmer than here. With that,
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, I'd just like to interject. I know this is out of order, but I was wondering if we could just take a moment of silence in honor of Ron Wilder, DPS commissioner who passed away this weekend.
so moved. Let's stay just a moment of silence for Mr. Wilder. And thank you for those kind thoughts. I met Ron Wilder at a golf fundraiser. He beat me like a drum, but I never held that against him. With that, we have no presentations, so we do have a couple additions to tonight's agenda. And let's see, I'm going to ask Trustee Bletcher to introduce, because they're both involving police officers.
Asking that we have approval to accept the resignation of an officer, hiring of A.J. Benson.
Okay, and those are listed as action item. Well, first will be add action item 5A. We do these one at a time, right?
5A and 5B.
Or we're going to do 5B is on the agenda. So everybody thought this was easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're... Right. Okay, so first things first, we have to accept the resignation first. So 5A, I'm going to ask the board to add action item 5A. That we add action item 5A.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by Supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney. Those in favor of adding action item 5A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? None offered. That will be added to the agenda. We are renumbering action item 5 as 5B. Do we need a motion for that? Okay, it's just a continuation of, okay. Okay. One doesn't happen without the other.
5B was already on the agenda.
All right, with that, I'm requesting one more action item, that we approve approval to authorize processing and distribution of payments through February 24th, 2017. Motion and seconded by Treasurer Van Oss, because of the possibility of lack of a quorum at the next February meeting.
Yeah. Where do we come up with a lack of a quorum?
I won't be there. Mrs. O'Connor won't be back.
Yes, she will.
She will.
She will.
Okay.
Yep. I was in contact with her today. She said she plans on being at the meeting.
It would be nice if...
And two
I'll discuss this with you later.
Well, I know what
you know
you're
where I'm
discuss,
going with this.
The quorum is 4.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was, where are 4 people not going to be here? I mean, who are the 4 people that aren't going to be here?
It was we don't have to add it.
Yeah. All
right. I don't have a second yet. With that, with no second, that will not be added. I did. Oh, that's right. With the treasurer.
It was quiet.
It was quiet. Yeah, very quiet. Well, since we have a motion and a second, those in favor of adding action item 6, processing payments through February 24th, signify by saying aye. None offered. Those opposed?
Nay.
By nay. Okay, that will not be added to the agenda. So, those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands amended. At this time, I'll open up to public comment on tonight's agenda items, including the added ones. All right, I see none offered. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. And I don't think our treasurer is going to read, so I'll ask Trustee Budney to...
I'll take a stab at this. I'd like to move the consent agenda 16-086, which consists of the minutes of January 9th, 2016 regular meeting and approval of check register dated through February 8th, 2017.
Support. I'll give the support to Treasurer Van Oss. Okay, any discussion among the board on tonight's consent agenda? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All aye. With that, we'll move on to action item 1, Mr. Buddy.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion that the Groseal Township Board of Trustees authorize the township manager to seek statements of qualifications for the following professional services: engineering, planners, auditor, and legal.
Okay, moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. History purpose?
Okay, and the history behind this is basically, I believe, and a number of us believe that it's just good business practice to go out and look at your various consultants and what the market is out there. We haven't done this in a number of years. Certainly haven't done it for all 4 of our main consultants in a long time. And we just believe it's a good business practice and should be done.
Questions, comments for Trustee Budney? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? That passes unanimously. Let's move on to action item number 2, which I believe will be mine. I'm move that the Groseal Township Board of Trustees approve the 33rd District Court 2017 budget in the amount of $83,311.34.
Support?
I'll give this one to Jim. Moved by the supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney. The background, if you recall, at the last business meeting, I asked the board to approve a conditional budget of the 33rd District Court. They reached back 5 years and adjusted from all the other communities their caseloads and their cost sharing among the district court. As it sorted out, ours was improperly calculated the first time also, and our original share was $83,943. It has since been reduced to $83,311.34. I'm going to keep going back and try to get that whittled down some more, but we'll just settle with that. And anyway, we have to, as part of the one of the district control units, we need to approve the budget. All of them have to approve the budget. So, questions on the district court budget? None offered. Those in favor of approving the district court, the 33rd District Court budget in the amount of $83,311.34, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Thank you for approving that. All right, this is going to be a little more complicated. I move that the Groseal Township Board of Trustees approve the Wayne County Emergency Management Resolution in accordance with Act 390 of the Public Acts of 1976 as amended. Moved by the supervisor, seconded by treasurer. Short background, Groseal Township's Support Emergency Operations Plan to the Wayne County Emergency Operations Plan has expired. It expires every 5 years. Michigan State Police Emergency Management Homeland Security Division requires those plans to be reviewed and updated every 5 years. Per Public Act 390, all communities with 10,000 or more residents are required to have a current support emergency ops plan in order to be eligible for Section 19 funding when federal assistance is not available. Developing and maintaining a support emergency ops plan will increase the response capabilities available to our residents during a state-declared disaster or emergency when municipal resources have been exhausted. Additionally, within that resolution, there is a request for a dollar amount, and I'm asking the board, as part of this resolution, to approve an amount of $25,000. It's a contingency fund. It is a it is well within the cash reserves we maintain, and that number was just based on the last time we handled a weather emergency, a wind emergency. It's about what we spent clearing roads, trees, and getting power and services restored.
Second.
Treasurer beat you to it, but you can't hear him over there. Questions? We discussed this a little bit in the study session. Are there any questions among the board? Further questions among the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the Wayne County Emergency Management Resolution according with Act 390 of the Public Acts of 1976 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Thank you. Lets me get to work on some more stuff. And Mr. Nelson.
Action item 4 is to approve the 3-year contract with Ace Pyro for Island Fest fireworks. I'd like to move that the Township Board authorize the Festival Commission to secure the contractual services of Ace Pyro LLC to provide the Island Fest fireworks display for the 2017, 2018, and 2019 festivals.
I'll second that. And with this time, the history is long and involved. We're going to, Ann, Ms. Darsniak, could you brief
Sure.
public present and us?
Sure. As being part of the Festival Commission, we have been very satisfied with the fireworks of Ace Pyro. They've been doing it since 2011. And everyone has been pleased as far as residents watching the shows. And if we do a 3-year contract, they said they will provide additional 5% of fireworks to each show, whether shells or whatever. But I think everyone has been pleased with this, and this has been approved by the commission that we recommend that we hire them for the 3-year period at a stable rate of $8,000. So every year, the amount is $8,000, and if we get more contributions and we want to put it back in the fireworks show, we can do that, but they're guaranteed is $8,000.
Ann, when was the last time we actually did an $8,000 fireworks show? I mean, don't we usually spend much more
Right.
than that?
I think the last couple of years have been like $20,000. Yeah.
We don't spend it.
Right. The fireworks based on their
I'm sorry,
contributions.
been spent on.
Yeah.
So we haven't had 8,000. So.
Right, but their minimum bid is $8,000, and we didn't this year, but we have been out for bids and the same thing. And when they bid on how many shells at $8,000. So it's just we have been doing it based on our donations and contributions.
Did you say we've gone out for other bids?
No, not this time.
I know, not this time, but prior. I mean, like how long ago? Who else did we look at? I mean, how many other people? Not the names, but how many other people?
We had Wolverine was one of the firework companies in the past.
Yeah, they have done it. It's probably been a couple of years since this last 3-year. We did a 3-year contract and another 3-year contract, so probably 6 years ago is what I'm guessing.
I believe there are only 2 or 3 other companies, and they were given the amount $8,000, all of them. Mm-hmm. I said, "What kind of show will you give us for this much money?" And then they put their list together and showed some videos, and chose Ace when we did, and Ace has been willing to continue doing that, sir.
I'm just that was one thing, you guys know me well enough that I'm always looking that we go out and ask other people, not just one guy. But aside from that, I was concerned with the $8,000 because remembering what we've been spending or what's been spent on the fireworks, it's not anywhere near. And if we were to drop to an $8,000 show, it'd be quite a difference from what we've had. So has that been taken into consideration any which way? I mean, what I don't want to see is coming back, hey, you know what, we don't have the $20,000, we need money from you.
Right.
That's what I'm afraid
the last couple of years,
concerning.
we've narrowed it down to where we felt we were in budget. And the last couple of years, the festival has contained itself within the budget. Within the last couple of weeks, we tell them what we can afford. So we do look at that.
What I'm concerned about this is that it looks like a blank check for a minimum of $8,000 because there's no data to support anything else. There's no history based on what we've paid on for fireworks over the last 2 or 3 years. So to me, the way it's worded, it's just a blank check. Minimum of $8,000 to be filled in at a later date. That's the way I see this. And there's no competitive, bidding on this. So it could be at $20,000, it could be $25,000. We'll never know until we get the accounting after the Island Fest what it really cost us.
Well, but I believe the actual, if it is 20, we're saying up front, the festival commission, the people in charge are saying, put on a 20. If we don't say anything, they're going to put on an $8,000
That's correct.
show.
That's correct. That is
Am
correct.
I understanding that correctly?
But if we,
So,
who's we?
the festival commission.
So, but I'm saying that.
I mean, the township.
Right.
Somebody in the township will
Right.
be.
yeah,
I mean,
we just know that it's going to be a minimum $8,000,
Right.
but we don't know what the max. There's no
Well,
not to exceed figure
As far
on
as
this.
the budget. No,
yeah, it's
that is
whatever-
correct. It's based on what donations and contributions received.
The township pays no more than
VIP.
$8,000.
Right.
Right, right.
Everything else, they raise through contributions, sponsorships,
When we go through the budget,
advertising.
we can go over history and that. I mean, an $8,000 show, if that's the minimum, there's no problem with an $8,000 show. You're going to get what you pay for, and
It's
so,
going to be.
yeah.
I mean, an $8,000 show would be different than what we saw
Correct.
last year.
That is correct.
However, we're not tied into a $20,000
That is
show.
correct, yes.
Okay, any other questions, comments on the Ace Pyro agreement? All right, with none offered, those in favor of
Am I ready?
the motion again, move that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees authorize the Festival Commission to secure the contractual services of Ace Pyro LLC to provide the Island Fest fireworks display for the 2017, 18, and 19 festivals. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, Trustee Malvesto opposed. The motion carries. Move us on to action item 5A. Mr. Bletcher.
Propose to accept the approval of the resignation of probation officer Gary Rouse. Mr. Rouse is one of two officers that we hired as probationary this past fall, and decided to tender his resignation. We have Chief Porcerelli here tonight to explain and answer any questions.
Let me second the motion first. Okay,
Go
well,
ahead.
let's give it to Trustee Budney. Moved by Trustee Bletcher, seconded by Trustee Budney. And Chief.
I received a resignation from Officer Rouse dated today for his resignation, and I would ask that you would accept this resignation. Is there any
You need go no further.
questions?
I'm sure we all wish Mr. Rouse the best of luck.
Yes, absolutely.
Those in favor of, unfortunately, having to accept his resignation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Again, best of luck and best wishes for Mr. Rouse.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Bletcher.
Action item 5B, recommend to the Township Board the approval of the hiring of Police Officer Alan J. Benson, effective February 14, 2017. I have the pleasure of noting that Mr. Benson and his wife are here tonight. I'd like them to stand up so we could recognize them.
Let's approve him first.
Yeah, that's a little premature.
Mr. Benson has been a member of the reserves. When we went through the hiring process last summer, August, he was actually third on our list, but because the police department does not have a place to put candidates through the police academy, and he was not licensed, certified, we were unable to hire him at that time, but he would have been he was high on our list. This is not simply trying to plug a hole. This is somebody that we wanted. He graduated from the academy in December. He is here. There's a rumor that he has turned down several other offers from various communities to join us. And based on his track record with the reserves, we believe that he'll be a fine addition to the police department. Chief?
Okay, I'm going to second the motion, and now now we can continue.
really nothing
Chief,
left.
go ahead.
You didn't really need me up here, but yes, as he stated, AJ was third on our list. The first two individuals got hired out right away, so actually he was first on our hiring list, but at the time, what we do is we do go to the police academies in the area to recruit, and during that, we've changed our application status. So if you're in a police academy, we will take your application. AJ wasn't certified at the time of the hiring. He would have been the first one offered the position. Unfortunately, he was not certified, so we had to go down on our list to number 4 and then actually to number 8. So he would have been the first one out in the original hiring list. So I would just ask that you would confirm AJ as the next hire, and actually starting tomorrow. I hope he understands that.
Are you saying he should be home in bed? Is that
8 a.m. 24525 Meridian. Put it in your phone. So that's what happened, and that's why we're here again tonight.
All right, thanks, Chief. Questions, Mr. Nelson?
Congratulations. We haven't approved yet, but we will pretty quickly here. But I only have one concern, that you look like you're about 13 years old. So could you help me with that?
His mom did drop him off.
It's all good. There you go. So I'm the first one you pull over. Thank you.
Other questions, comments among the board?
I'd just like to say, Officer Benson, thank you for joining our community, your service to our police department. Looking forward to it. And to your wife as well. It's a commitment on her part, just like yours. You're the ones going to be working the shifts, and she's going to have to live with that. But thanks for coming on board with us. Thank you.
Other questions, comments among the board? With none offered, let's go back to the original motion. Those in favor of approving the hire of Police Officer Alan J. Benson, effective February 14th, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, Officer Benson, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Swear him in right now. Can we do it? Yeah. Do we have the oath? We can get the oath book, right?
Okay.
After the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
But let's just swear him in right now. Or do you want to prefer to do it after the meeting?
Okay.
Okay. Stick around.
No banking.
Okay, that concludes tonight's action items then. We will move on to, well, I've been advised we don't have a clerk's report. Is Ms. Darzniak? Okay, we do have a treasurer's report.
We do have a treasurer's report because something tomorrow is happening that is important. It is Valentine's Day, but it also is tax due day. So tomorrow taxes are due February 14th at the treasurer's office. If they are not paid tomorrow, they can be paid through February 28th at the township offices with a 3% penalty. And on March 1st, no longer will we accept taxes paid at the treasurer's department. They will then be owed to Wayne County with additional interest. So if you have any questions or need any help, we'll be available all day tomorrow. Give us a call or stop on by.
Anything else?
Oh,
Happy Valentine's Day. We'll move on to trustee reports. Begin with trustee Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. 2 reports. One is with the open space greenways. We have a special session scheduled for February 15, 2017 to look at possible acquisitions, cost benefit of property that is presently available. The commission is going to meet, and we're going to come out hopefully with a recommendation for the township board as a whole. Second commission I'm on is with the police department. We are meeting tomorrow night, specifically going to be discussing a placement of monthly statistics for both our patrol activity and any kind of criminal activity that we have. Place those on the net so that we will have information for the community to understand what we do. As an example, when I give you some of our statistics tonight, it is simply mind-boggling that we have 950 incoming calls for the last month. We have had a number of questions raised about what do you guys do, what do you do for the tax dollars that we raise, and simply put, we're not only the first responders, but we're also involved in handling alarms. Last month we had 19 alarms. We're involved in 38 rescues and had 3 larcenies and 62 911 calls. So your police department, your fire department are very busy. It's a 24/7 operation, and we put on an average of about 15,000 miles or more a month on our patrol cars, patrolling approximately 145 miles of Grosse Ile. So they are busy. They're not just pulling you over. They're not just there to write tickets. Great majority of our stops result in a warning, and it is, please do something differently. So we're very conscientious that we work for the community, and very much aware that the community is a safe community, but we'd like to consistently improve, strive to do better. And that's the balance of my reports.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Nelson.
I have 3 reports for you tonight. One from the Island Fest Commission, which I'm the liaison to. It is June 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, which is the first weekend in June. We have the fireworks approved. That's a good thing. As usual, Chad Novak I don't think he sleeps, because he's nothing but energy. He is just always going, and he is why, and you've heard this before from Lauren Smith before me, that all he does is work for the Island Festival. So thanks to Chad. And my second report from the Recreation Department is that we have 38 applications for the rec director position. We went through them Thursday, last week, and we cut it down to 7 people based on their qualifications, and one of the 7 has taken another job, so now we are down to 6 applicants for the rec director position. And at this point in time, that's all I can tell you. Pray for spring.
Yeah, quick question for Jim on the applications. First of all, I would indicate that Jim was kind enough to share the applications with me. I asked him if I could review those. 38 is an awful lot to look at, and to cull it down to 7 is a marvelous piece of work. I commend Dale and Ann for being involved. I believe Annette was involved as well with that, Chief Porcerelli, and thank you for that. In my conversation with Jim, I asked him specifically if we had any island residents that were making the final 7, which would be for purposes of interview, not for a hire. I noted 2 resumes there that I thought were worthy of an interview. And because you redacted all of the names, we don't know the names, but we do know they were numbers. I specifically looked at number 7 and number 9 as having experience that might be something that could carry over into the rec department. I'd like to see them at least get an interview, have them be considered, and see if we could go forward with that. I know it's a little more work, but I really do want to have some local flavor. I believe that the qualifications for a rec director is like a 3-legged chair. You need to not only have some experience managing, I think you have to understand the business of the township's rec department. But to me, a very important, very, very important issue is that they have local roots here. I believe that as somebody that should be familiar with the community, familiar with the people there, and I would ask that we add those 2 people, whoever they are, to the mix for an interview only. Not a job offer necessarily, just that we have a chance to look at them.
I would support that. I, too, was able to, Jim was kind enough to share the apps with me, and looking for it. Looking at our rec department is unique in that our rec department doesn't run a lot of programs for a lot of people. I mean, in other words, our programs, there's not a lot of people involved in them. Your big programs, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, are all done by private entities, Gyra or Giza, which have nothing to do with the township. As far as, and when I say township, I mean us right here. So we have a lot of assets, recreation assets, the golf course, the pool, that whole Water's Edge complex. And so we need somebody who needs to be able to manage assets more so than come up with new programs. They have to be able to do that. I I personally don't think we've had anybody in the past that can do that, and those are very expensive assets that we have there, and they need to be promoted and put to the filled up as best we can. And there, I would think those numbers that Carl mentioned, I would agree that they should be on for the initial interview, and take it where you may from there.
All right. Any other comments on?
Yes,
response to Ms.
I do. I'm not going to. Both Carl and Jim have said everything I need to say. I just like to let it be known that I'm in full support of their statements. I'd like to see somebody from with proper qualifications from Grow Seal at least get a shot at this. So, going on, again, I'm just supporting both their comments.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, we'll ask for a trustee report from Mr. Malvesto.
Well,
warmed up?
Get you warmed up, yeah. We had to cancel our last fire commission meeting, so I really don't have anything to offer there. And I can tell you that the Bike Path Committee are still actively pursuing two new members for the commission. I don't have anything other than to offer other than that, so I'll just let it go with that.
Next time, Mr. Buddy.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. DPS meeting tomorrow. We will be going over the proposed budget for the next fiscal year. That is probably the big thing on our agenda. And then actually we have a ZBA meeting this month, first time in a long time. So Tuesday the 28th. And the only other thing I'd like to say is welcome aboard, Officer Benson.
All right, thank you, Mr. Budney. Move on to Township Attorney, Mr. Asardi.
Briefly, Real Road Apartments application for demolition has been pulled. I'm in contact with the owner and the demolition company that's pulled the permit almost on a daily basis. My goal continues to be to make sure that those things come down at the owner's expense, not the township's expense. Doing everything we can. We do not have a date. They pulled the permit. They have some additional information that they want, because I want a final date from them. So we should have that shortly. Like I said, almost daily. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks,
My neighbors are after me.
thank you, Mr. Asardi. Yeah, he's a little more worried about the fire chief. Mr. Ream, Township Manager's Report.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. I wanted to confirm a statistic with Chief Porcerelli. Last week, I believe it was Thursday, you may have heard a low-flying helicopter buzz the island that was bright blue with Michigan State Police on it. The DNR had wanted to do their annual deer count. And believe it or not, that number they counted, and they're very confident in that number because it was clear as far as the weather had gone, 138, which last year it was 378. So they said that between the combination of car deer strikes, culling, and deer leaving the island, they go to the outer islands, et cetera, et cetera. They were very confident in that number. So I will say this much, that we know that all the hard work that the police department and the sharpshoot volunteers have been doing makes a difference, because our car deer strikes have tremendously reduced. But that was their number. I thought that was a little low, but we'll see. We're continuing with the call. And along the lines of this state and the MDNR, the state did approve coyote trapping on the island, and that program began last week. Details, Chief Porcelli will be reporting as they come along. Township hall repairs, you notice that the drywall work was done. It's been primed. It'll be painted probably by the end of this week, and then the hallway counters will go in. And we still have some wallpaper work to do in the interior offices. Once we get all that in shape, we'll do a top scrub from head to toe, windows, everything. And Township Hall will pretty much be put together. Part of that project, as you know, we were working with the insurance company. It was under a pollution policy, and we threw everything with the kitchen sink in. And we knew that it was going to be difficult. What the insurance company said was, we want to know, prove to us what was there prior to the policy, or even worse, prove that there was no pollution in the building prior to that policy. And that policy has been there. We've had it for 3 years. So we said, well, we can't prove that it was there. We also can't prove that it wasn't. So you prove the same. And we argued back and forth, and we were able to get them to give us a settlement of only $20,000. I say only because looking at the numbers, I was hoping for more in the neighborhood of $40,000. But based upon our agent and our insurance consultant, that's where we are. So I can have some more detailed conversations with you if you'd like, but that's where we are as of actually this morning. The recreation director search, we'll take a look at those numbers. But everyone asked, how do you whittle a pile of 38 down? Well, as it was stated, we had a committee of 5. We had staff member, 2 managers, the chair, and liaison, and myself. And we neutralize the applications. We take the names off. We take addresses off. We try to make it as neutral as possible, so you don't know if it's a man, a woman, whatever. It's just all relevant to their experience and all of the work and their credentials. We have a resume review sheet that allows the reviewer to rank the resume, the cover letter, and takes a look at the specific job description requirements and relate it to what their job or what their experience is in relationship to what the job is. And then at the end, we tally it up. The group gets together and we say, okay, give me your top. Who do you think's worth interviewing? We mark it on the board, and then we go through. And this one was unanimous. This one was, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 3, whatever. So the top, the short list, if you will, rises to the top pretty quickly. So it did. And I do know there is, I recall, one Groseal resident in that top tier. But we'll take a look at those numbers and we can look at it. So that has been proven itself to be a very fair way of evaluating candidates. And in the past, I do get phone calls. Why didn't I get interviewed? Why didn't I this? Why didn't I that? Well, based upon qualifications, and you always hear, well, because you didn't interview me because of some perceived observation that doesn't even exist. Well, we neutralize the applications. I have no idea. You're just a number and a qualification. So that's the way things get evaluated. So I just wanted to expand on that a little bit more for the board and the community's understanding. And last but not least, Groseal Connect. We're in the process of doing an upgrade. When we contracted with Bar Z on an annual basis, they will give us an upgrade. So we've learned some things this past year. We've talked to people what they like about it, what they don't. We're moving some of the buttons around on the screen, and we're doing some combinations, and the Downtown Development Authority is going to help share in some costs and help promote the downtown businesses, which is obviously under the Downtown Development Authority regulations is the whole purpose and idea behind the state regulation. So we're going to be doing, working with that. We expect that new revision to be probably launched by the end of this month, maybe sooner. And we have, as everyone may have noticed that signed up, we're over 3,100 now. You may have noticed you're getting more notifications. We struggled with what the users wanted, how many notifications we send, what notifications do you want to hear. Obviously, we started about things such as traffic notices, bridge closures, but I think, and I don't want to go to this extreme, but I think there's a segment of the community that would love for us to be an electronic newspaper, because we do not have a newspaper in this community at this time. We do have the Beacon section of the Trenton Trib, but that's once a month. I don't believe personally or professionally that's our role, but it is our role to communicate to the residents of the community. So we're going to continue to do that, and if anyone has thoughts or ideas, we'll take a look at how we're going to proceed. So with that, and scribble note. Woody, are you here? Legal, 1,257. Ian, you want to add anything? Did I miss anything?
Yep, we have legal for Pepper Hamilton. Pepper Hamilton in the amount of $9,500.
And that's the consent order. We want to save Mr. Clark's time so he can speak longer at the counter.
Dale, before you,
Yes,
real
sir.
quick, can we go back to the deer count? When we were
Yes.
doing the deer count, did we happen to get any kind of coyote count?
They did not.
Okay.
They did not. They did the deer count during the day, and that's usually when they're not very active. So.
They can't do it too
Mr. Supervisor, I have one matter for Mr. Ream as well. Some 7 months ago, the township approved the hiring of a maintenance person for the rec department. I had the pleasure of meeting Gene twice in the last 2 weeks. Part of the painting that Dale is talking about was done, the priming was done by Gene. This is certainly the slow time of year. It is my understanding, Dale, that you were able to bring Gene in here to do the painting, the priming, and have that accomplished at about half what it would cost to have it done professionally. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's correct. And
Thank you.
And general fund will pay for that, not recreation budget, Mr. Nelson, just so you know.
But I just want to make that point known that is a significant savings, Dale, and it's a great use of assets. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got a pretty good manager. Okay, I'll wrap up with the supervisor's report. A couple of things Margie thought you'd like to know. Mother and son bowling night will be held at Woodhaven Lanes on Friday, February 24th. The lane time, shoe rental, hot dog, and pop provided, $25 per couple, $8 for each additional child. Those tickets are available either at the online or at the rec department. The dining out for music continues to support the GI Music Boosters. This time it's at Smokies on the Water next month, Monday, March 6th. Township Hall will be closed February 20th for President's Day. That's Monday, reopening 8 o'clock Tuesday morning. Let's see, this morning Dale and I met with our new DTE regional manager. Molly Coy has been the manager for as long as I've been in this seat, and we've always had an outstanding relationship with Molly. Actually, she was moved off for a little while, but came back. And the beauty of my relationship with Molly, mine and Dale, is if I needed information, I got it real time. It was much more important before they got their automated a power outage app. You can find out things about, but Molly would tell me what I needed to know when I needed to know it. I could call her anytime. Jennifer has promised to do the same thing. I thought everybody worked this way. I've talked to other communities where they just do not talk to their regional rep. Some of the northern suburbs have nothing but problems. So we we're doing pretty well. Intend to keep that up. I was at the Michigan Association of Township Supervisors Conference middle of last week, not to be confused with the Michigan Townships Association. This is just supervisors and supervisor stuff. Walking away from that, I came back a little bit better educated, not any smarter, of course, but more knowledgeable. Looking around townships from the prism of Grosse Ile Township, our big concern of the residents is road conditions, and that's kind of a Wayne County, southeast Michigan township concern. The rest of the state, their big issue is broadband. They cannot get internet, and it was something we almost take for granted, and it's not available it's not available at the level we expect to much of the state, and that's what they're pushing their township-type legislation towards. Again, we're worried about roads, but a township that has 2 paved roads and are well-maintained by the county, they're not worried about the roads. They want broadband. So it was just interesting getting that different perspective. I did have the opportunity to brag about, amongst other things, our public safety team, how well they work together. Again, it's as Mr. Bletcher pointed out, we have an integrated team, and as supervisors were pondering their budgets, and if they had a police department, it was they thought they were competing with the fire department. The fire department was competing for the public safety dollars. And when I explained how our team works, they were just, wow, that's a good idea. Maybe I can make that happen, have the police act as the first responders, and integrate the team. So I really enjoyed bragging about our public safety team, so guys, take a bow. And one thing I just want to wrap up. As we speak, there is an open house being held over in Brownstown, I believe it is, on the Great Lakes Water. It was advertised as a full report on what happened with I'm going to call it the water delivery anomaly of January 12th, 13th, 14th. When they had 4 state reps there and they were talking about legislation to prevent it from happening again, I just don't think that's where the place needed to go. I'm hoping I'll get a report from somebody who was there or somebody who's videoing it. But the short version, and I've got a couple of reports from Great Lakes Water, the short version is they were cleaning a settling basin on the 12th of January, which was Thursday, stirred up some settling. It led to some odor issues, the sulfur smell. Some people complained of chlorine, but they think it was their report said only sulfur. That went out to some of the customers. I had a total of less than 10 complaints on Grosse Ile. I think of all the communities I talked to, which is pretty much everybody I could contact downriver, there were maybe 100 total complaints of odor issues. They ran toxicology tests. Great Lakes Water ran toxicology tests. Gibraltar ran an independent test. Woodhaven ran an independent test. They all shared their results with me. There were no bacterial issues. The toxicology all came in clean. So odor issues, when they said run your taps, it worked. It cleaned it up. I can't wait to see the parallels to Flint, and it's just going to make me angry. So this is Great Lakes Water. My only complaint was they sent the notification out to our DPS. Had they sent it out to me, I could have shared it with the board, and we could have answered the immediate questions rather than me having to make a bunch of phone calls, not knowing that anything had happened because I didn't have an odor issue. But that's been fixed, and they will be notifying elected officials also, because most of the residents, if they have an issue, they call me, and I want you to call. They call me, and if I don't have an answer, I just feel very uncomfortable. So anyway, that should be fixed. The water issue is fixed. There are other things going on at Great Lakes Water that will be expensive, but we'll let you know when those happen. I'm leaving Mr. Budney in charge of that. That concludes my report. With that, I think we open it up to public comment. 3 minutes, and Dr. Price, or let's let Dr. Price go first.
I'm really happy that we're trapping coyotes. Mr. Loftus and I had a couple of really nice. Okay, my name is Marla Price. My name is Marla Price, and my address is 10455 Ruthmere, and I've been here for 16 years. And as of lately, I've been very upset by the coyote issue, and I've met with spoken with Chief Porcerelli, Mr. Loftus, the DNR, the biologist, state representative, and then Hank Winchester, Channel 4. We had a little information go out on Channel 4. It's not... The coyotes have gotten out of hand. And I know I missed the last meeting that the chief said he addressed this. But it seems that I personally had a coyote jump over my fence to attack my dog. And I was there, and we chased the coyote off. But this kind of behavior was very disconcerting to me because it's aberrant behavior. It's unusual behavior. It's behavior that only a desperate animal that is hungry is displaying. And there have been innumerable attacks, we all know that, and many kills with little animals. The problem is not the coyotes only, it's the fact that we're living on a protected island and they have nowhere to go, they have no food, and we've taken away their natural habitat, so now they're just reproducing, and it's getting ugly. I go out on my patio every night with a pot and a pan, and I let my one dog out. I have 3. And I feel, and I've lit my whole sky up. So if the airplanes are coming over, I'm right in the runway. They're going to land in my yard because I just spent $600 putting floodlights in my house, and it's ridiculous. I feel like I'm delighted that you are deciding to trap. However, my fear is that trapping is not going to be the answer here. That these are very, very smart animals, and they're very difficult to trap. I would like to hand you all a little handout that I found from Jackson County, and I don't know if any of you've heard of it, but there's a sporting goods store there, and they're having a contest for whoever can kill the most coyotes, and it's a contest with you bringing in the coyotes, and whoever kills the most gets $500, and whoever kills the beefiest, the biggest one, gets $200. Well, it certainly is, and we certainly can't do that on the island because it's we have residents here, and I don't ask that I'm not asking permission. I'm just suggesting that I have 5 to 8 sharpshooters already in line that are Michigan State troopers that would be delighted to be in this contest.
It's not going to happen.
I am telling you that it is these coyotes.
Okay, I'll read it.
It's really awesome. And,
Thank you.
absolutely, I'm willing to pay the bounty. So I'll pay the guys to do this if it's not illegal. The DNR has told me personally I can kill the coyotes on my property. I'm not a sharpshooter, and it's not 1700s, and I'm not gonna. It's not the wild West. I'm not gonna shoot coyotes, but I also think that it's really inappropriate that I have to fear my dog's lives, and that people. What you don't understand is that if you have a snowstorm and you have a toddler that wants to build a snowman, and you let that 2 or 3 year old out there, these animals are hungry, and they're displaying really, really, inappropriate behavior because they're mangy and they're sick and they're desperate. And something is going to happen with these coyotes. So, this seems to be one of the things that could really lighten our population. And I know that you're rolling your eyes at me, and I know I
just know what
that.
I can do under the law.
Well, this is a legal thing.
I've got my
Mr.
attorney
Loftus.
right here. So,
Okay.
we'll look at it.
Okay, so the DNR has said that we can shoot the animals on our property. I'm not asking mayhem, and I'm not asking people to go out and to be sharpshooters to kill these animals, but I am saying that something needs to be done on this. And it's.
Dr. Price, I'm going to ask Chief Porcerelli, before anybody gets ideas that we're going to be sitting with a shooting gallery, I'm going to ask Chief Porcerelli to give a little law enforcement input. But Dr. Price, thank you. I'm sure we'll be talking.
To reiterate, last month I did go over what our plan was since August of 14, and just to let you know, we are the only city, and I can only say in downriver, our mutual aid pack, that is doing anything proactive for what we have here.
How many of you trapped?
That is only 17 cities. I'm not going to be answering questions from behind me, okay? There are 17 cities. No one is doing anything except grow seal. I understand her frustration. I tried to explain to her in my office what the program has been since August of 14. We have done it safely. We have done it correctly. We've done it legally. We're now supplementing it with trapping. We started last Saturday. The gentleman came out. We have a plan together. We're moving to different parts of the island. There are certain reasons why you move. I'm not a trapper. I'm not a hunter. But he explains why we go in certain areas at certain times and you only stay in certain areas for only 10 days at a time. So that's fine. He's got the game plan down. The DNR has allowed us now to do it, which as of 2/16, previous to that, we could not do it. There is no, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not going against what she's saying, but I'm going to tell you, you cannot shoot an animal on your property within the Township of Groseal. You cannot just go out there and shoot any animal. There's no discharging a firearm on Groseal. I'm not going to get into technicalities about if you feel your life's in danger, then you better figure something out because you're civilly liable, you're criminally liable. There's a backdrop to you. We can't just go out in subdivisions and start shooting a 2.23 round that goes a mile through the woods, through homes. It'll go through wood. It'll go inside your house and maybe out your back door even. So this is not what we do. We have to do it safely. It's the same thing with the deer culling program. We have 8 years of a deer culling program, and I'm going to say it. We have all kinds of people call me up, why can't I be a shooter? I mean, they're whining to me. They're crying because they're a hunter and they think they should come out here and be a deer culler. Well, that's not what's going to happen. It's been 8 straight years of not one wrong event, and that's the way we do it. We keep our sharpshooters that we have. We don't let Joe, Dick, and Harry come in and shoot. And as you can see, I'm a little bit passionate right now over this because it's about your lives. Do you want me to come in your subdivision and shooting through the woods where it might go a mile, a half a mile, who knows? And I'm not going to tell you, sure, you can do this. The DNR, I don't know where you got this information from, but I tell you, you cannot just shoot an animal that's in your backyard because you don't want the animal there. You cannot do that. I'm not going to get into the laws about your life in danger of any type when your life's in immediate threat or danger. That's a whole different law with that. So the point is, please, I don't want you going out there. I'm not going to tell you where the trappers are. I'm not going to tell you where the deer cullers are. It's the safety of everyone. We run look what's happened. You've seen it. And I guess I could go on and on, but I'm not real happy right now. As you can see, Ann Arbor just spent $250,000 on their deer culling program for 50 deer to 100 deer. We take out 100, 150. It costs me about $3,000 a year. That's what it costs me. That's it. To do this correctly. I am not going to go into this coyote program haphazardly against the law. Again, anybody going to bring me the bologna sandwiches in jail that I eat every Friday? No. So I have to do this correctly. I'm working with the DNR. We are now supplementing the program. We have removed a number of coyotes so far since August of 14. The question is, are we doing it safely? Yes. Are we doing it correctly? Yes. But moreover, are we doing it legally? That's yes. So I don't want people thinking they can just walk outside and start shooting animals. You can't. That's not. You'll deal with us then. If that's what you do, I guarantee you'll deal with us. I don't care what the DNR, someone said, they said. It just doesn't happen that way. And I'm sorry I have to act like this sometimes, but a point that's this serious and this dangerous, I have to talk like this, and I have to speak what I know of and what we've done. And what's the greatest predictor of our future performance in anything in people? Their past. Our deer culling program from 8 years has been perfect. Not one complaint in 8 years and not one mishap. That's what I want this coyote program to be. Not one mishap. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. And again, I apologize. I get a little passionate when things start to go awry a little bit, but the fish rots at the head first, and they're not going to cut my head off first.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
I don't want them coming after me either. Thanks, Chief. I won't let them beat you up anymore. But Chief Porcerelli, Township Manager, we've been on this when it was obvious steps had to be taken. We took what we thought were the appropriate steps. The coyote population, as it became more settled in, more brazen, we took additional steps. He's absolutely right. If you can defend yourself, but the township fathers, I'm going to say in the early 60s, banned hunting on the island. It is state law. So I can't change it. This board can't change it. It has to go through the legislature to open up, if we're going to open up hunting on the island. It's just, that's the way the DNR works. I want to throw out, for what it's worth, I have been talking to other communities. I'm starting to get a level of interest. I'm with Gibraltar and Trenton, and talked to Jack O'Reilly at Dearborn. He said, this is something the state has to handle. The state already has the problem under control through 90% of the state. Farmers with rifles, or Jackson County, take care of the coyotes that are problems. We don't have that option. One thing I will throw out, those of you who like to do recreational feeding of deer, with your bird feeders, coyotes generally don't eat bird seed or milled corn like deer eat. They will eat it, but it's not. But the mice that come in and hit the stuff that reaches the ground, the mice that come in, coyotes do eat mice. That's their primary source of food in the wild. So if you think you're just feeding the songbirds, you are probably feeding the mice and the voles and moles and the stuff that the coyotes are going to be coming to eat shortly thereafter. So if you want to bring them into your yard, have one of those great big bird feeders or those crib-type deer feeders, and you'll get all sorts of wildlife, some of which we really shouldn't be supporting. We're working on it. I trust Chief Porcerelli. We're just doing the best we can with what we have to work with. Again, the trapping, we've escalated our response, and we'll monitor how that program works. So, the chief isn't trying to sneak anything past me. I'm not going to let anything sneak past him. We're working on this together. We'll monitor it. We'll monitor it, and we'll up the ante if we're not getting the results we want. One more thing.
Told me. Now, I did not make that up. So just FYI, the chief himself told me that you can kill. I'm not killing them on my property, but I look like a crazy woman because I did not make this up. And that's all I want to say. Okay. That's all I want to say. And you and I spoke together. So. Don't make me think that I'm trying to bounty hunt coyotes when we've got a problem. And I appreciate the fact that you're trapping these animals. I wanted to know some numbers. I wanted to know what's going on because, trapping coyotes is a difficult game. And that's all I wanted to say. I'm done.
Okay. For what didn't get caught by the mic is Dr. Price wanted to say that she has been speaking with Chief Porcerelli. She wasn't making up any wild facts in her presentation. I just wanted. So the microphone, so this is captured for the recording and for people at home who probably couldn't hear you from your seat. So with that, other public comment. Mr. Horvath, welcome back.
Long time. I have a new collie, beautiful dog, showstopper. I sympathize with you. I do not walk him at night without a large walking stick with a brass head on it.
Did you introduce yourself and give your address for the record?
Ernie Horvath, 29785 Bayview Drive, Hickory Island.
Thank you.
I have this outfit on in respect to our new president. I couldn't find my hat, but I shouldn't wear a hat in a room anyway. At times I feel now that I'm not the only target. There are coyote and deer. Tonight my comments are just going to revolve around a couple of things. I watched the open space meeting with great intent this week. It dovetailed into a project that has now come to completion that I took upon 4 years ago without compensation. I financed myself. I did a health environmental study on Grosse Ile and Downriver. And that's about all I'm going to say about it, because there's legalities, technicalities, government agencies, hospitals, doctors, research centers. It's 14,000 pages. And once you exceed 10,000 hours in something, they call you an expert. I'm past 12,000, I'm just scratching the surface. So my comment tonight is about any piece of contaminated land, water or no water. You can do something that I watched the open space say. My comments will be followed by one question. You can put a fence around it. You can put a wall around it. You can put an underground fence around it. You can put cameras on it. It will not stop vapors from traveling within a 1 mile radius that could potentially be toxic. I'm the researcher. I just followed my nose. That's what the research shows. It can go out 1 mile. That's why when the Army Corps sent out letters a year ago, they sent it out in a 1 mile radius. Number two, underground springs, aquifers, and traveling water underneath. No cyclone fence is going to stop underground water movement to take toxic chemicals and vapors under your home. That's a fact. And how do I know this? I worked with the man that wrote the book, the definitive book on underground water and environmental studies. It's about 4 inches thick. It's used in colleges and universities around the world to teach this. He's been guiding me on this research. So that leaves me with my question. And the question is to Mr. Fletcher. And at the end of the meeting in open space, you recommended you were going to recommend to the board a due care study of approximately $5,000 to come out of the general fund. That would recommend taking some precautions to put a fence around an area or whatever it may be. I'm not designating the area. After my last comment, I'll ask the question. Since I've been away on sabbatical to finish this up for the last 14 months without interruption, it's a high and a low. You get elated and you also get depressed a little bit because you don't want to find out what the truth is. That's the truth, and you have to deal with it. I congratulate all of you for stepping up to run for office, and I hope you have a successful 4 years ahead of you. I may be in the neighborhood, I may not be. I can't tell. I've also set up an exploratory committee to look at the possibility of running in 2018 for political office. My question, have you recommended to the board the $5,000 request to do this due care proposal?
A little background with Mr. Horvath. First of all, I recall having a very good meeting with you and Bill Heil several years ago at Kate's Kitchen in Flat Rock. You impressed me as a person who was passionate. You impressed me as a person who cared a great deal about what you care about in terms of the environment in this community. The $5,000 that you're speaking of came as a result of an email exchange between the township manager and member of the Conservancy. I have not brought that to the attention of the board at this point. That will be on the next agenda. The $5,000 figure was in response to a request by a member of the Open Space Greenways Commission to consider putting in a wood chip trail in Albemarle Meadows. That is a site of a former township dump. Years ago, there was consideration during the Merle Solomon administration about perhaps using that as a boat launch and using that as a park and a number of other things. Mr. Ream has provided to me a copy of a Phase 2 analysis study, environmental study of that area. I have not had a chance to read that. You'll recall that this meeting was approximately a week ago. I do intend to go through that with a fine-tooth comb. I have experience in litigation with that. My understanding was that the $5,000 was to keep people from coming in direct contact. I appreciate, again, your passion and your thoughts about the vapors, but my concern is if we were to open a trail in that area, you're inviting people to come into a toxic waste dump, essentially a hot zone, if you will. The Phase 2 analysis, and Mr. Ream was very kind to bring that to my attention, but the Phase 2 analysis will show that there are a number of problems there and that a cleanup of that site would cost a ton of money. Any environmental contamination I've had to deal with, we have looked at actually burning soil when there were chemicals, petrochemicals, release of gasoline into the soil. You have either the ability to transport it or burn it, depending upon the amount there. I do not know the extent of the chemicals there. I would not want, and the litmus test I use is whether I would allow my children, our pets, spouse, neighbors, or friends to walk around in that area. I do not believe that there is good cause to allow anyone to go over there and do that. The $5,000 that Mr. Ream had recommended and suggested in the email is something that this board needs to consider. In terms of going forward with a cleanup, I do not believe this township has anywhere near the amount of money it would take to clean up that particular area, respectfully. And I suspect, in light of my conversations with you and the Citizens Advisory Committee that was we all talked about a year ago, that there are a number of areas here. I believe there have been 24 that have been identified in the airport, and that's a problem. But I don't know that we can go down there if ultimately the question is, what are we going to do about it? I certainly cannot support the idea of putting trails in there and inviting people to come into an area that I believe is contaminated. I don't believe that it is prudent for us to attempt to disturb it. I leave that up to the experts. But I do know a Phase 2, and Mr. Ream was very kind in supplying that. A Phase 2 shows that there are problems there. And I am not going to recommend that.
I'm not asking for anything. I'm just stating the fact that you can't stop vapors by cordoning it off, and you can't stop underground aquifers from moving chemicals. Detroit Edison did a test at the Fort Sibley Quarry. They put dye in it, and it ended up in St. Clair Shores.
Okay, we're getting beyond the scope of public comment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Horvath.
He took the time. I didn't.
Thank you, Ernie.
Thanks, Ernie. Other public comment? Let's get a new face up. Huh?
I'll be quick.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Robin Knutson, and I live at 8387 Bridge near where Prechter's is, on the south side of the street. I have an acre and a quarter. And I just want to say a few things in support of Dr. Price. I've lived there since 2001. We've had a lot of coyote on our property. We've had a bitch and two pups move in while we were on vacation, and they ended up living on my porch, which I set up a motion sensor light to chase them off. Normally, I'm pretty good with having nature. However, I've seen where the coyotes have become much more aggressive over the time I've been there. And I have grandchildren, and now I'm very worried about grandchildren because they love to go outside and play. And I've read more and more reports of a once rare occurrence of coyotes attacking children now becoming a little bit more, not so much mainstream, but more prevalent. So I think you really seriously have to look at this because if number one, if I had a choice between killing a coyote and killing my dog, I would kill the coyote. But there is no choice if a coyote were to attack a small child. The other is a suggestion. I'm guessing that you're moving the trapping because coyotes range. And I know this because I can hear them range. So we know that when they're around and when they're not. I would suggest that potentially have the public tell you where the coyotes are, because they do come into an area and they're there for a few days. And you hear them socialize. That's not ripping people to shreds. That's coyotes socializing when they make that noise. That public could help you. And that I don't know if you're trapping on public or private land, but I'm sure there's a lot of people with public or private land that would be more than happy to have you put their traps there. So that's it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Mr. Clark.
Oh, can I just say something, please? Chief, I think one of the reasons that they move the traps, you can, okay.
But I
All
can
right.
stay up here, so you can answer.
That's all right. Go ahead. So
I
they can
believe the
hear.
reason that they move the traps, rotate the traps, are because once the trap has become identified by an animal, it no longer stays in that area. It moves off to another area.
Correct.
So you keep it in a given area for a short period of time,
10
and
days.
then you move it someplace else, because the human scent is enough to put that animal off. And if he smells it more than one or two times,
correct,
he's going to go to a different area. So that's
correct. That's why we have, just so you know, we have 3 areas so far. We're going to go a total of 5. That will be south end, middle, north end, and then in between the middle and north and middle and south. So we're going to hit close to the entire from north to south end every so many miles, and so it will be probably about a 50-day program, and we'll see where we're at after 30 days, see what we come up with, see if it's worth the supplemental program. And we're going to continue doing what we do anyway at the police department. But you are correct, and that's the reason why you move them, because if you don't, or if you get a bunch in 10 days, you usually don't get more.
correct.
So that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, they move off they're very adaptable. They move off very quickly. They'll find another source. But the fact that our numbers of deer appear to be on a decline,
yes,
may be a reason that they become more aggressive as far as a family pet. But at some point in time, when you eliminate the food source, you're going to eliminate the problem, which will be the coyotes. They'll move off to another area looking for a food source. Thanks.
Correct.
Go ahead, Chief.
No, I just
all right.
want to make. If you had a question, I didn't want to answer.
Yeah, no, I just
Got it.
the seat.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Okay.
Mr. Clark.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. How many deer have we shot this year?
It's just that.
Inadequate.
100 up to right today. We're still going.
Okay. Any coyotes?
Yes.
But you won't give me the number.
You knew you were getting away that easy.
No, I want to make sure everybody hears it. Okay. Remember when we did the 100, we actually have taken away from gross yield 271 with that 100, if you can understand, because obviously it's that season for them. So what we hope we have 33 coyotes so far. We'll let you know. People think it's a secret. It's not a secret. I just don't like giving out numbers unless everything is correct. So with that 33 coyotes, how many females? Not exactly sure. And if they were pregnant, not exactly sure, but the great possibility is we probably have eliminated 50 from gross yield so far in a total, just as the ratio is 3 times as many with the deer. They have twins and, believe it or not, triplets. I didn't even know that. So that's where we're at. So we're at 33 so far, and we're going to continue it and continue the program for another 50 days, the supplemental program, and we'll see where that takes us.
Thank you, Joey.
You're very welcome, young man.
All right. Thanks again, Chief. You may not be done, but go ahead. Woody, go ahead.
Okay, we got some iron plates on Macomb. I wonder when they're going to be removed. Iron plates.
Water main break.
What was being repaired? Gas mains.
When are they going to be replaced? Taken away? We are doing it or somebody else doing it?
Not us. DTE.
Oh, good. I got a TT for here. Okay, we got a bump on Macomb. Been there for 2 years. When are you going to get into McComb's, not McComb, DT's butt and fix it?
Where am I, Macomb?
Been there, been there. Take a ride, you'll find it.
Okay.
Right in the corner of the cross street, the first cross, the only down there by the hardware store. Lions. Okay, Lions. Lions. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, I'm hearing there's some vapor censoring in the township hall. Is that true?
Some
vapor censoring?
It's a new one. It's a new one to me.
Just asking. I'm here. Huh? Not of you here. Okay, just hearing. Let's see. Okay, well, that'll be it.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any other public comment tonight? All right, with none offered, pretty much, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Trustee Bletcher. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none offered. We'll close it at 9:50.
Censoring in the toilet.
8:55. 8:50. It's a small.